Hello. Hello, Caleb. Can you hear me?
Hey, can you
Hi,
hear me?
Caleb. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. My video is not working though, so give me 1 second. I guess, do I need video for this presentation?
If you are showing the PPT presentation slides, then you need the video.
Okie dokie. And I'm able to share my screen, so let me know if you can see this.
Okay.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, we'll just go with that. I'm not exactly sure what's wrong with my face camera here.
Okay, cool. So I'm starting with the introduction and then you can carry forward.
Okay, so I guess before you get started, so I guess, are we starting now?
Yes, I'm starting now.
Okay.
Hello, good evening to all. Welcome back to GFiT 2020, an IT event managed by GoodFarms. My name is Namita and I will be your host for this session. The world today is undergoing a fundamental transformation as we move towards the modern, digital, and advanced technologies of tomorrow. This dramatic change can bring remarkable freedom in our lives, yet it also can be quite daunting. One thing is clear: navigating our digital future means we need to be smart about it. And the good news is you are already in a very smart place here in GFiT, where Good Firms has taken an initiative to provide you with all stellar opportunities to network, grow, and learn. So let's begin and bring the best ideas, experience, and expertise in our ecosystem. Today's speaker is Mr. Caleb King, founder of People in Tech, a modern day IT consulting company that helps businesses and entrepreneurs leverage technology to gain a competitive edge. Caleb will share his perspective on the rise of the no-code movement. Feel free to drop a question in the chat box and the speaker will answer it at the end of this session. So, Mr. Caleb, let's kick off the session.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for having me during this great live event. I'm really looking forward to it. So let me start our presentation here. So the rise of the no-code movement. So ultimately, what I want to outline throughout this presentation is, one, give you an introduction of who I am, then highlight what we're going to be learning. I'll share a little bit of my first experience with the no-code movement, then really get to the butter of this presentation. Why should you care? Why is no-code something that you as an IT professional should even care about? And then we're even have to highlight a little bit of like the next big wave of apps that I see coming, and then we'll wrap it up with final words. So let's get into it. So who am I? My name is Caleb King. I'm, like she said, the founder of People in Tech. I've been a software developer for the past 10 years, worked from everything from back-end development, front-end development, mobile development, which is my favorite, simply due to the fact that it really allowed me to be an entrepreneur and pursue some really cool ideas. My company, People in Tech, we offer IT consulting services. So we've helped entrepreneurs, small businesses, and some larger organizations with implementing cloud correctly, building web or designing web apps or mobile apps. And then lastly, what we just started this year is we're offering coaching for entrepreneurs. So people who are not as technical, or maybe you're in the very beginning of an idea, or maybe you're middle of an idea, but you need to scale. So we try to connect you with the resources and the people within the industry that we know who can help take your idea to the next level. Now, since you know a little bit about me, we're going to be focusing on what is no code, which some people will call low code. But ultimately, we're going to spend some time defining it, and then we're going to be talking about the disruption of this no code, low code movement. Like, really, what impact does it have? And then lastly, I'll give you a list of some of the most popular ones I've seen and give you some resources that you can look at as well. So I constantly get asked this question when I do this presentation: why is the no code movement even prevalent? Why are people even talking about it? And the reason no code has really made its mark in the IT industry is that it helps small businesses and entrepreneurs improvise. Anybody who's watching this, you probably have some technical skill, some skill set that is in your favor in terms of supply and demand. And when you're hiring a developer, we're hiring a project manager, a product owner, whatever position it is within the IT industry, those are very costly. And to create something simple, to create something independently where you're not dependent on the developer, is really hard to come by. You either have to spend the years acquiring the skill, which anybody who's been doing it long enough, you know, I've been coding for 10 years and I still feel building an application is at least a year-long project. But building an MVP could be much smaller. And something like no code or low code can help you get to that MVP faster. So I found this study, and this is back in 2009. So I didn't want to pull a number from 2020 because I was kind of afraid to break my own heart. But I found out, according to ZDNet, 68% of IT projects fail. In my experience, it really comes down to two things. Business scope creep, which some of you might know, where the project deadline or project requirements slowly grow over time, or simply due to poor business requirements. The business wants something cool, they want something sexy, they want something that's going to change the world. They really don't know how to describe it. They don't know what are the exact features they're looking. They sometimes don't even know the problem that they're trying to solve. One example in my career is I worked at a very established organization, top e-commerce platform, and it went from technology based from the 70s, wanted to modernize it to today's technology stack. I want to say the project as a whole probably invested $15 million into this revamping of modernizing the technology. And over a 3-year period, you hire hundreds of developers, you have several hundred product owners, you have all these people who are trying to contribute to building something great. And over a 3-year period, we were planning to build 50 different products, and we only ended up with 7. And some would argue it was due to lack of requirements, lack of direction, change of leadership. But the reality is we've all probably been part of some project that has failed. And it's unfortunate because it's a significant investment to build a team, if you're an agile developer, for example, to bring in developers, to bring in an entire Scrum team, get them norming, forming, performing, and then finally, hey, go build this phenomenal product. And a lot of times, like we see here, 68% of the time, it fails. So let me give you my experience about when I first encountered the no-code movement. So my very first role out of college, I was working for a fitness company as an IT junior consultant. And what was interesting was this company, they just wanted to administer e-learning. They didn't have a e-learning developer. They didn't know much about e-learning, but they wanted a platform where they could pretty much upload PowerPoint, upload videos, add some quizzes, add some tests, and then be able to do that on their own. So what I ended up recommending was a platform called Moodle for one of their products and a platform called Drupal for another one. And that was really my first experience with no code because yes, I was implementing a content management system, but really what I noticed was the client, the business, they really just want something where they can drag and drop. And I started asking a question like, why don't you just have like an in-house platform where you can build it, customize, and have all the plugins you want and do all the things, the gamification, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And they were really looking at it like, we don't know how to do that. We just need something drag and drop, something simple. Can you set that up? Fast forward a few years later, I have a friend in California, and he would drive up and down the state. I'll keep it short, but he was going to Salvation Army's, Goodwill, and any thrift store buying high-end luxury products. So Gucci, Prada, Burberry, all those brands. And they were usually damaged. He had a friend who could repair them. And so he came to me, he's like, Caleb, I need a site. However, I know I can't afford you hourly, and I know I cannot afford you on a fixed project. However, if you can help me set up a platform, get me started where I can manage it. And I started noticing he valued the ability to be empowered. that person I was helping, yes, they wanted a storefront. Yes, they wanted something where they could sell things. And yes, it was a good idea. It did very, very well. The website called clenchthat.com. And what I realized was he didn't care if it was the most performant, if it had the latest features. He just wanted the ability to update and do things on his own with no technical skills. And then lastly, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, I had a friend who was a Shopify developer. And he is telling me Shopify is the greatest thing in the world. And I'm like most people, I use Amazon, I have Prime. If I'm not getting it in 2 days, I'm like, if I can find it a better deal on Amazon, why would I go to somebody's storefront? And what my friend made me realize was a lot of people want to sell products, but half the time they run into technical obstacles, setting up the website, doing advertisement. And when he introduced me to Shopify, I didn't realize that you can have a storefront in a day. And what I ended up doing for a few different clients was they would have physical products, whether it's books, clothing, or electronics. And they were like, hey, and the timelines. That's the other thing. Clients would come to you and be like, hey, I want this website done in a week. Back in the day, there was no way a developer can say, yeah, I can get you a complete storefront in a week. And when I see something like Shopify, it's no code in the sense that you don't have to be a developer to be able to set up a storefront anymore. And as you can see here, the movement is really focusing on empowering empowering the entrepreneur, empowering the business, be able to do things without counting on somebody, without paying somebody some high hourly rate to be able to fix or update things when needed. So let's talk about why you should care. To me, when I look at the no code movement, to me, it's a big disruption in the industry. Like I just gave you the 3 examples before, an organization complete cool things with IT. However, I don't know if I'm necessarily solving people problem or a complex problem or whatever the case is. So these no code platforms, they're really empowering people who want to create something quick. We want to create something and be able to show it to investors. A lot of the times when you're looking for investment, you need some product. The days of, hey, I have this great blueprint of how I'm going to be the next Amazon, those are unfortunately gone. You almost now need to have, I have X users, I have this much recurring revenue, this is our margins, this is our profit. And you almost need like 3 months to a year of proof saying, we have a successful idea, we have users, we just need to scale. And these no code platforms really help people who don't know how to build it from scratch. The challenge with a lot of people's ideas is they don't know how to take the idea and make it a reality. So again, as you see the next 2 bullet points, less developer dependency. I have seen this trend in the IT industry where developers demand from the product owners to have the requirements clearly laid out. However, that's not always the case. It's always going to be a little bit of give and take. I think product owners, their job is to understand the problem they're trying to solve and communicate with the developers. However, developers need to also be able to consult to some degree to help product owners realize what is possible, what isn't possible. Something like no code, product owner doing it himself. Product owner hopefully has the skills to say, hey, I can do this drag and drop editor, and I know how APIs work. I can tie into something like Zapier, pull this information here. And again, is it a perfect solution? Is it scalable? Are you gonna probably offend somebody with big old notation? Completely. But it allows them to be creative on their own. So I found this stat, and it's actually past $500 million now. But companies in the no code sector are on pace to raise at least $500 million. And this was pulled from I made this presentation back in July, and it's already past the 500 million. And to me, it's amazing, simply like I was saying earlier, no code allows you to get to MVP faster. And for those of you who aren't aware, I'm assuming most of you are, but MVP, the most viable product. And in my experience, what's happened in bigger companies, in smaller companies, and even in startups is MVP has been bastardized. What I mean by that is you see people look for MVP. However, MVP should be, in my opinion, really good things. Three things you're very, very good at. And what I've actually seen is MVP turns into I need Facebook 1.0, but maybe without Messenger. MVP has turned into this uh, waterfall type project to the point where it's not really doable. It turns into a 6-month thing. MVP, in my opinion, should be a 1-month project. And you should be able to show progress and show something where you can say, hey, investor, this is what the product is. This is my vision for the product. This is what I need to take it to the next level. Something like no code allows you to get there much faster. And you can rapidly iterate, which is one great thing in agile development. One of the challenges as a developer is depending on where you work, especially when I've consulted large enterprise organizations, maybe some older industries like insurance companies, where it's very challenging to just implement a small change because you have release processes, you have CI/CD rules and policies. You might want to do a code release, but it might take you a week, even though the code itself might be available today because of HIPAA, PCI, all these rules and regulations. It might take you 2 weeks to get out that new code. Just depends on where you work. Some organizations are more flexible and faster, but something like no code allows you to constantly improve upon your idea and rapidly iterate upon it. So I love this slide here because it's just a reminder to remind the audience that startups, ideas, they come in phases and things become trending and then they move on, of course. So I want to say about 3 years ago, chatbots. I had so many people reaching out. Hey, I want to do a chatbot. And you've probably seen some of them where somebody's messaging you and they're saying, hey, Caleb, I have a great product. Would you like to check it out? You might click on a link. Next thing you know, you get another automated message. And the chatbots are ultimately made as a mini sales funnel. They can also be used as customer support, something like you would see in your internet service provider. When you reach out to them and you're having technical or you want to increase your service or talk about billing, they have a chatbot that is automated to help facilitate some of that conversation faster. The ICO craze, anybody who's into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, it almost seemed 3 years ago, everybody had a crypto idea. Everybody had their own altcoin and everybody was saying, hey, I am the Bitcoin of real estate. I'm the Bitcoin of retail. Whatever the case was, it seemed like everybody was coming out of ICO. And some people had great ideas, but they couldn't actually build anything. It was too hard. It was too complicated. They didn't understand blockchain. They didn't understand the ins and outs of cryptocurrency. And some people were stuck. They were left in the dust. Some were able to get something something built, maybe not well, but built well enough to the point where people were believing in their product and actually investing in some of these ICOs. And for anybody who doesn't know, ICO faded out very, very fast. I think the new wave is DeFi, and I think DeFi has a lot of potential moving forward, but ICO craze was a thing. I also like to mention the early AI. How many products, how many applications have you seen where like we leverage AI to, make smarter decisions for you, to write better emails, to write better blog posts, to generate more content, whatever the case is, AI is now almost baked into everything. And the funny thing to me when it comes to AI is some people are just using open source libraries. Some people are just using tools out there that are already available. Again, going back to the blockchain rush, Bitcoin was very, very popular. And it seemed like everything, once people started talking about blockchain, they were talking about, hey, can you blockchain YouTube? Can you blockchain Google? Can you blockchain Medium? And then you had all these dApps where they were like, it's YouTube, but built on blockchain. It's Google, but built on blockchain. The cannabis industry, which I know throughout America is very controversial at the time, whether it should be legalized or it shouldn't. However, where it is legalized, a lot of those states, developers, entrepreneurs, creatives, they jumped on it. They started creating different apps that were going to help facilitate the new legal aspect of cannabis. whether it's delivery, whether it's a storefront, whether it's an app. Things like weed maps became very, very popular and boomed overnight the second the conversation of cannabis becoming legal. And then lastly, neobanking, something you've probably seen over the last few months or maybe few years. Things like Chime, Acorns, these fintech startups, they are able to build on a platform called Plaid, but ultimately have some type of tool where you don't have to go to Chase, TD Bank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. You can now just have a full banking experience on your phone. You can have an online checking savings, you can do your investment, something like Robinhood, which has now turned millennials into day traders overnight. These are all not necessarily fads, but in the startup world, what I'm trying to highlight is these are things that come up. And I'm sure you who are tuning in, you probably had an idea where you were like, man, I just want to do something for chatbots. I want to do something for neobanking. But the time, the resources to get your idea out is very hard, and it takes time and it takes resources. And simply due to that, you might not get the idea out fast enough. So here's really why you should care. And I want you to see that it's very possible. For those of you who have an idea, we've helped several entrepreneurs and 2 businesses take their idea and make it a reality utilizing build code technology. And I just want to point out 4 highlights that really show the power of the no code movement. Google acquired no code app development platform AppSheet. Codita picks up 12 million for an AI platform that auto completes developers' code. Anybody who writes code, use something like IntelliJ or WebStorm or any of the JetBrains products, you do get some IntelliSense, but that's not for everybody, and not everybody can afford those products. So there is pretty much a market available, or there's a niche that you can take advantage of. And if you have an idea and you can go pursue it with something like a no-code solution, then I highly suggest you do it, because these are companies that are getting a significant amount of traction, and they're getting in front of investors, they're getting in front of clients, they're getting in front of users, and they're solving real problems, and they were able to do it without any of the usual upfront costs of building a web app, a mobile app, or whatever the case is. So as you can see here, a no-code industrial robotic program startup, Wanderbot, they raised $30 million. I'm sure anybody who's tuning in right now, you have an idea. What's stopping you from pursuing it? Is it the technology? Is it the time? What exactly is it that is stopping you? And the power of no code that I've seen is, again, it empowers you to pursue something without the restrictions of what you used to have. And lastly, Atway raises $37 million. That could be you. That honestly can be you. There are plenty of tools out there that can help you start today. And here are just a few. I'm actually going to be doing a podcast on this later this week, so you can tune into my podcast called People in Tech. But here are just some of my favorites. Bubble.io. If you're looking to make a web app, if you are looking to make, let's say, for example, you love Udemy. And actually, I'll tell you because I have a client who is interested in promoting this during this conference here. So I had a client come to me and he was saying, hey, Caleb, are you familiar with Udemy? I'm like, yes. He's like, I want to do Udemy, but I want to do it for listeners. I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, well, not everybody likes to sit down and watch video, but I want to get MVP out, and I want to be able to show that creators, people who are teachers, they can create and upload curriculum, but it's all audio driven. Similar, has quizzes and has resources, but people can multitask. They can walk their dog, exercise, whatever the case. But he's like, I want a Udemy type platform just for audio. Can you do that in 2 weeks? And the reality was, yeah, we can do something exactly like that. Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be just like Udemy? No. There's a reason Udemy is a company that is established, that has scalability, flexibility, fault tolerance, and everything that makes it a great company. However, if you're just trying to get proof of concept out there, Bubble.io allows you to build web apps. Maybe you don't like web apps. Maybe you like something like Alexa or Google Assistant. VoiceFlow allows you to create Alexa skills, Google Assistant skills. So if you can say, hey, listen to the People in Tech podcast, or hey, what's the weather for today? Of course, those are things you can do with simple Google products or Alexa products, but I think you get the idea. It really allows you to create a complete voice, flow, which of course the title fits, and ultimately it's drag and drop. You can pretty much say, when I say this action, then do this. Or when I say these different actions, then do that. And it's not a whole bunch of coding. It is truly a system that allows anybody without coding to be able to do it. Another one I thought was very interesting here was About Me. Too many people I've seen do not have a website, especially kids who are coming out of college. One thing I've noticed is when we are interviewing junior developers or junior IT professionals, I always ask, like, where's your portfolio site? And they're like, oh, I just never made one because I never want to spend time writing all the code. And I was like, do you even have a calebking.com site? And then they were like, no. So About Me is literally, you can make a simple About You page. And what makes it amazing is you just upload your pictures, you add 3 interests, and then everything else is taken care of for you. It's even the text itself is taken care of for you. So these are just a few of them. And I'll leave this slide up. I'm sure most of you know things about Zapier or Squarespace or Shopify, of course. But I've seen the possibilities of no code go far beyond this. And a lot of the times people are taking something like Bubble, they're tying it in with Airtable, they're tying it in with Zapier. And next thing you know, you have a full application with hundreds of thousands of users bringing you a monthly revenue. And what I really like about the no code movement as well is from a financial perspective. When you're hiring a team of developers, we know it can cost thousands of dollars. We know it can be something that isn't necessarily cheap. However, if you go a no code option, let's just use Bubble, for example, you can build your app. And then once you feel like it's ready to actually be launched and taken seriously, you pay $30 a month, very similar to how you pay $30 a month for Shopify. Over a year time, $30 a month for something you probably spent maybe 2 weeks trying to build and actually gain traction, actually gain feedback, and then be able to build upon that feedback, you are still saving significant amount of money building it on your own and only paying $30 a month. To me, that is one of the reasons it's so disruptive. Is we've seen big, small organizations take these no-code platforms, build out an MVP, get users up to 1,000 or 2,000, maybe even 10,000, and then at that point, you know you're successful. At that point, now you can say, maybe we need to find a better solution. Maybe we need to build it from scratch. Maybe we need to find a way to scale. But what these tools are allowing people to do is take their idea and make it a reality today. So unfortunately, my picture here did not show up. But for anybody who wanted to get in contact with me, the best way to get in contact with me is through LinkedIn. You can just find me at Caleb King. And then for anybody who wants this presentation, I want to make sure that some of you who wanted that slide before, that you wanted a list, you can go to peopleintech.io/no-code and be able to download this presentation. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will open it up to questions now. Oops, sorry. So I saw we had 5 questions here. Okay. So, didn't know. All right. So Ron Crate said, do the no-code platform provide the complete customization that can be achieved with coding? Some do, some don't. It really depends on which tool you're using. So what I found is when it comes to customization, if you're just looking for styling CSS, then yeah, you can definitely do some of that, do something like Bubble. If you're looking for logic-based things, you can do a lot of great things with those tools, but again, they're not perfect. It's similar to WordPress. I've seen some people do some really great things with WordPress, but at some point it does have its limitations. It really depends on the tool. And then the great thing about a lot of these platforms is I think these are the next wave of apps. So these are developers like ourselves who are building them. So they're looking for feedback, Ron. They're looking for somebody to say, hey, it'd be really cool if you had this feature because this is how me and my business use it. Is there any way you can incorporate that? And they're considering and possibly add it on. So I hope that answered your question. Do you consider, so this is from Juan Garcia, do you consider no code to be an important part of digital distribution? I would, yes. To answer your question, yes. And the reason I say that is simply just due to the speed of no code. One of the challenges with programming today and building software in native languages is simply due to speed. And of course, like I said, resources. So I do believe no code is going to be a very important part in terms of digital distribution, because some of the no code solutions I've seen have been things regarding creating content. So Canva was a very, very popular platform to create graphics. As you saw, my presentation was made in Canva. People are trying to do that for video. And in terms of distributing content, they are trying to find a way to facilitate that content faster. So I hope that answers your question. Next question. Do the low or no code features constrain the ability of a developer to deliver refined user? So do the low or no code features constrain the ability of a developer to, that is a very good question. So in my experience working with low to no code over the past year is some people are going to be perfectionists. Some are going to be demanding a lot of different things from these tools. Uh, but in terms of essentials, in terms of what most customers and clients are looking for, you can deliver a phenomenal user experience. And the great thing for some of these no code platforms is they do give you templates. And similar to any platform like Wix or Squarespace or Shopify or WordPress, these no code platforms like Bubble or Glide.io, they do give you enough flexibility to ensure user experience is taken care of. However, there's still always going to be the science behind UX. You know, is the call to actions clear? Are the colors providing, a sense of reliability or a sense of urgency? There's a lot of other aspects of user experience that you as a professional, you as a creator will still have to consider, but the no code tools do allow you to pursue those as you would with regular coding. Hope that answers your question. Does no code require maintenance? Oh man, that's a very good question. Thank you, Derek, for asking that. Unfortunately, it does. However, what I will say is the maintenance of no code compared to other tools, and let me just give you an example. So when I first started my job as software developer, you had a front-end developer, a back-end developer, a QA, an SDET, which to me are almost one and the same sometimes. You had a database admin. So when something went wrong with the database, you had the DBA look at it. When you had something go wrong with the front end, you had the front end developer look at it. Nowadays, 2020, people are considered full stack. So anything that goes wrong, front end, back end, DB, doesn't matter. And then of course, people are doing things like test-driven development, so TDD, and that's one developer responsible for all of that. Now, similar to no code, however, it does require maintenance, but the speed of maintenance, in my opinion and in my experience, has been a little bit faster. It does depend on your workflow. So like I said, the two organizations that were much larger, they had a release process. And part of that release process, Derek, was anytime they wanted to make a change or anytime they want to update their system, it was a huge initiative. And with no code, if I wanted to make a tiny edit to some data or change the data model, I had the flexibility to do so. So it does require maintenance, but in my experience, it's maintenance I'm willing to live with, especially if you're just trying to work with an MVP product. So Dan asked, can we build complex workflows and logic using no code drag and drop builders? So the answer to that question, Dan, is it depends. And it really depends on how complex your workflow wants to get. But what I would do, Dan, is again, I have no affiliation, I have no links, but Bubble.io, which to me is the great one for a lot of people who are looking to build web apps. They have a complete backend, and it's just a whole bunch of if-else statements or while loops or for loops, but it's just in a drag and drop fashion. So what I've noticed is working with people with no code applications, the complexity of coding blows their mind because you're depending on the language, right? You're like, if you're working in Java, you have to think of compile time and JVM and an SDK and like those things. I know for my client that just blows their mind. I have no idea what you're talking about. But when I show them something like bubble.io where it says when you click on this button and then you click on this button and then the user is logged in, but they're based in New York City, but it's midnight, then show them this offer. All that type of workflow is very possible. Now, I will say in terms of being optimized in your workflows and your logic, that's a little bit more challenging as it is with regular software development. If you want to be effective and efficient, it would be challenging in no code, but it is doable. Next question here is, typically, no-code app builders do not allow for developer access. Does this mean that coding knowledge has become a barrier to the process of app development? Let me read that again. So typically, no-code app builders do not allow for developer access. Does this mean that coding knowledge has become a barrier to the process? To answer your question, and this is the anonymous attendee, I would say yes. However, there's pros and cons. To me, learning how to code has helped create the career that I have today, and I would never turn back. And even though I think no code is the future, I do not think it's an end of developers. If anything, like I said earlier, it's just opening up the doors for more creativity and more people to break into the IT, the app, the web app space. And in my personal opinion, people who do know how to code, what I've seen some of my colleagues do, if they're looking to build a no code app themselves and they're trying to figure out the complexity behind that to pretty much create a platform that is admin driven, that allows you to drag and drop. At the same time, writing that code can be complex. I think most people look at coding as a barrier regardless. I think people who know how to code, and again, this really depends on the platform. Uh, some do allow you to have not necessarily developer access, but well, no, I take that back. You're totally right. They don't have you have developer access. And it's simply due to the fact that developers who built a no code solution, they want to hold that. They want to keep that proprietary information. But to answer your question in terms of has coding knowledge become a barrier to the process? Yes, it really has, because for people who know how to code, they're going to try to build an iOS app. They're going to try to build a web app. And some people just want those skills. They want to learn by doing, which to me is the best way to go about it. However, some people do not want to go that route. Some people, especially for software developers, let's say you're a great Python developer. Let's say you know everything about Python, Django, maybe use Postgres, maybe use Firebase, whatever it is for your backend and your database. Let's say you're amazing with that framework, but then you want to build a mobile app. Are you willing to spend the time and effort to learn Swift or Kotlin or Java to build that mobile app? Or maybe you want to do something like a cross-platform, React Native or Flutter. Do you want to spend the time? Or do you really say, my idea is actually pretty simple. If I could just put it in a spreadsheet, something like Google has glide.io, where you can make a mobile app from a Google spreadsheet. Now, it's not super complex, but it does allow you to create something relatively fast. And again, that is the uniqueness of no code. It's about the speed and efficiency you want to pursue your idea. If you want to make it, quote unquote, build it the right way, then I will always say building it natively is probably superior. Hope that answers your question. I know that was a long one there. James Green, in what terms will no code affect future development jobs? So I touched on this a little bit, James, but let me elaborate. So right now, I see a lot of developers going into organizations and really trying to modernize their technology stack. It may be something built 10 years ago, now they're trying to update it. Maybe you're bringing in people to rebuild the front end using something like React versus Backbone a few years ago. Or maybe you used to use Angular 1.4, now you want to use the latest version of Angular. And those are the jobs that we're seeing. Maybe you're going to an organization and they're looking for something like machine learning or API developers. Maybe you have a legacy database and you're trying to get people access to this DB, but it's very old. The way to connect to it isn't available, and there's no secure way and stuff actually talking to the DB itself. Those are all things that I see today. And in terms of the future, what I see is developers not necessarily being affected by their job, but I do see a shift of the type of work developers will be doing. I think the no-code platforms within the corporate space will just help get MVPs out faster. I think when a business is looking for, hey, we want to see if this app idea works, they might go with a no-code solution simply due to their timeline. They might go with a no-code solution due to resources. And then once they're able to secure funding and secure resources, then I think developers will be fine. I will admit, I think you'll see developers similar to how when Bitcoin was so popular, you had all these great developers from Google and Facebook and Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple, leaving those great salaries, leaving those great companies to work at all these cryptocurrencies, kind of hoping it would be like the next .com boom, hoping to catch the next Amazon and get in early. I think you're going to see a lot of developers try to work for the no-code platforms to, one, understand how to build a no-code platform, but two, to kind of get in early and be able to say, hey, I have a tool that I charge 30 to 100 to 200 a month, or I have an enterprise pricing plan where I can really capitalize on this user base that is very, very abundant. The fact is, no code is so disruptive because there's so many people who have ideas, but they're not able to pursue. So I hope that answers your question, James.
Thank you so much, Caleb, for answering all the questions. And it looks like you have covered all of the questions. And still, if the audience has some dilemma, then they can definitely reach out to you on LinkedIn, or else drop out their questions in the comment section on the Good Firms page on Facebook. We really appreciate your time being here, Mr. Caleb. And thanks again for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and have a great week. Take care.